Welcome to SwitchCorner, my name is Alex, and today we're going to be taking a look at Little Orpheus on the Nintendo Switch, a platformer with a dose of comedy and the slight minor puzzle, but is it worth your time or should you hold on to that cash? Well, hit subscribe and join us here on SwitchCorner for reviews and deals weekly, and let's get started. The story and we'll be following a Comrade Ivan Ivanovich during what can only be described as an interrogation. We learn quickly that Ivan was sent on a top secret mission to the center of the Earth to prove a hollow Earth theory and learn whether it's going to be worthy of colonization. This mission, though it actually occurred 3 years ago, he's been missing ever since. Now he reappears to what I'd call skepticism around his whereabouts, and more troubling, what is the location of the Little Orpheus, a device for communication that also doubles as an atomic bomb. Over 9 episodes, so the game's going to take us on Ivan's recount of the offence that occurred. This is a discussion with that general, and both of these characters provide the majority of the dialogue, but it is a hell of an adventure, from expected lava-like locations to monsters to what is a thriving tribe. Naturally, it's all then in pursuit of Little Orpheus, and a particular, let's say, enemy with some devious intentions. The writing is fantastic, though I really enjoyed the delivery, short cutscenes of the interrogation, and then near constant voiceover work from Ivan and the General. This actually comes from developers The Chinese Room. They are mostly known for fantastic walking sims. Think Dear Esther, Everyone's Gone to the Rapture, and Amnesia, A Machine for Pigs, and that is this team. The experience, though, in this genre, it clearly set them up for success on the storytelling front, where they managed to deliver on the mystery, the action, a constant sense of escalation, and then of course the comedy. Great stuff though in episodes 1 through 8, that wraps up the main story. 9 is a bonus episode. So gameplay, and for those that are not aware, this was actually an Apple Arcade release originally, and a celebrated one at that. It instantly means it's a relatively simplistic control scheme though, that's also kind of typical for the platformer genre anyway. Also on that note, for gameplay, not only do we get episode 9, but I'm told a few new moves, though I never did play on Apple, so I cannot confirm what exactly they are. Think a 2D plane, movement left to right, and then the majority of the gameplay, that is the ability to jump, duck, slide, and then push and pull. Immediately with controls, one complaint I have on the Switch, there's no D-pad input for movement, and I think that would have been perfect. It just kind of feels like a bit of an oversight. Throughout this experience then, while those controls initially are simple, they do find multiple ways to adapt them. Like underwater, that jump is going to be higher and slower. There's a slew of buttons and switches, which kind of makes up the majority of the contained puzzles. Again though, very simplistic. You'll even then find the opportunity to control some basic vehicles, climb and swing and fly to a certain extent, thanks to what I would say is wind propulsion. The game opens with the core controls as well, and while that never changes, I was just impressed generally with how much they found to do with each. The first couple of episodes I was a little worried. We seemed to be facing the same challenges, kind of different dressing, but it really starts to open things up around episode 4. The only area of controls I didn't like, they were these basic stealth moments. The idea itself is sound, honestly, but when waiting for an enemy to look away so you can move, the game actually auto-ducks our character so we can only move slowly. Now this makes sense on, let's say, a phone or an iPad, it's a nice little assist. On console, I think you could have placed a little bit more faith in the gamer. It just kind of takes away from that feeling of success. It's never a challenging game, this one either. They want you to keep pushing forward to uncover that narrative. Again, like I really enjoyed that story, but it still has a few reasons to head back. That's not actually a difficulty option, there's none here, but rather what it calls the lost recordings. This is an excuse to replay each episode while hunting out orbs. These orbs, they unlock new outfits, as well as behind the scenes development content. So problems, and I want to say again, like really enjoyed it, but one issue on the Switch is it suffers from frame rate issues. That's going to be stutters and drops. It's not what I'd call frequent, but I would say it is present in every episode as the world starts to open up. It never impacted the gameplay too much, honestly, only because this is not a Twitch platformer, rather think almost a cinematic like the flashbacks of the world, so longer animations. But if frame rate's important to you, you're going to be best waiting on a patch. Other issues then, the game for sure likes its basic QuickTime offense. Button prompts flash on screen, it's a single input at all times. You know, think like a fight the dinosaur that's flying in, press the button on screen and there you go, you're out the way. That doesn't actually bother me, I just kind of wish the input was a little bit more logical. For example, in these scenarios you're going to duck and it happens multiple times in a row. But wouldn't just pushing the duck button make sense? Instead it's completely random, no doubt that is for challenge. But I kind of found it a little bit weird. I'm pushing the jump button and Ivan is ducking. I think a little bit more thought here would have gone a long way, just to kind of make it, I guess, blend into what we've been doing the rest of the experience. The only other issue, while you won't die frequently, the checkpoints I found, they could be placed a little unusually. They're never too far back, honestly, but for example, you might turn a switch, which requires you to mash a button for, let's say, 5 seconds. It's a pretty tedious, you know, setup. You die though and it's going to load you again just before this moment. Why not have it following the tedious button press moments? It's for sure a minor thing, don't get me wrong, but it definitely annoyed me on a couple of occasions where I needed to try like 5 times in a row. Overall though, look, these complaints are pretty minor outside of the frame rate. I really enjoyed it and it's not without its issues, as I say, but the world and what was coming next kept me guessing and excited for, you know, that next part of this tale. It just keeps you locked in for the 3.5 or so hour adventure. Each episode here, it's coming in around the 20-minute mark. So graphics, and I love the look of it. Again, the locations, they change frequently from episode to episode, and it goes from what I would call somewhat grounded in reality to prehistoric, space, underwater, and yeah, the list goes on. Just all sorts. This game is not lacking on the variety front, and visually it allows them a lot to work with. What I really liked was the stylistic decision to have black and white moments for the interrogation, then colour for the levels. It definitely makes for this nice, I guess, almost reflection of how our character is feeling. That colour palette in level as well, seriously vivid. This is then though reinforced with some great animations. Ivan moves with a lot of swagger, and even the occasional enemy, simplistic and you can't attack them, rather you avoid them, but they still kind of add their own spin on things that I really did appreciate. The main issue I have with the visuals though here, pixelation is apparent at moments, especially ducked, but the resolution, it feels at times just a little bit low. There's a blur to the action, which seems to kind of vary throughout the game. Handheld definitely improves matters, but it's still present. It also goes for a blur style to the edge of the screen at moments for certain levels to kind of, I guess, reflect the world, and this is more preference on my part. But that is not for me. It always leads me to kind of like this, is this a shortcoming or a creative decision? Like conflict when I'm thinking about it. Audio then is the highlight. The voice acting is incredibly well delivered. Ivan is a bit of a dummy, kind of that comedic relief, and our general, the man pushing for the truth to little Orpheus. Between cutscenes and voiceovers though, they add more weight to the adventure than most platformers out there, and our character also gets the occasional effect too, like screaming as you run for your life. Definitely top quality stuff. It's then wrapped up with some nice sound effects for each location, definitely kind of fills out this world, and a fantastic musical score that always matches what's happening from the high intensity to stealth. It's one of the best indie soundtracks I've heard in some time. So the final verdict, and this is a tough one honestly. I think it's clear I've had a great time playing this game, between the story and that simplistic action, but it's not without its issues in its current state, and I think a patch would do the world for this game. The main area being the stutter and the frame rate drops that are present. Follow that maybe then with a look at the resolution. It seems to fluctuate just a little bit too much, especially when ducked. It can be a little bit soft with its image, and also add D-pad controls. It's such a simple thing, but it will go a long way to making the experience just so much better. This all in mind, an above average, a 6 out of 10 from me today. That said, like, if like me you like your platformers and you can live with frame rate issues, you should absolutely take a look, because it will keep you smiling from beginning to end. It's just so well pieced together. Will you be adding this one to the library then, or are you holding onto that cash? A shout out then to the patrons of the channel who are going above and beyond to support SwitchCorner. It helps more than you know, so thank you all so much. Then hit subscribe if you love the Switch, as much as we will do here. Join our growing family, and I'll see you all on the next video. Thanks everyone.